Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to my all-new relationship series. Now, each of the entries in my relationship series will have this disclaimer because I need you to know I am not an expert. I don't think there can really be a 100% foolproof expert because people's experiences vary so much and people are just so different. So all my life, I've always been fascinated with relationships, how they work, how they don't work. Now, my dad, he's a minister. He's also been involved in counseling for individuals, couples, and families. My mom, she's got a master's degree in counseling psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. So bottom line, I grew up with two parents that love to help people, but they had to understand their problems first. And so in them doing so, I started picking up a lot. Now, granted, I still made a lot of mistakes, but because of my parents' insight, I was able to start seeing some of those mistakes as I was making them, as they were happening, and learning from them. Okay? So I did not make the same mistake again and again and again and not realize why. So in this series, I'm going to share with you some of the insights that I learned. Please take everything with a grain of salt. No situation is the same for everyone. So thank you, and let's get started. Hello and welcome once again to the Devoratorium. My name is Darnay DeVore. I'm going to be your host. On today's episode, we'll be discussing errors in relationships. This is the series part 2. On today's episode, we'll be discussing games, the game players. All right. If you're not familiar with this, you're going to be by the end of this video. That's my goal. Okay. So something I learned when it comes to game players, people that play games in relationships, the ones who deny them, who start off by, I don't play games, I'm not a game player. Those are some of the biggest game players ever. I learned that when they start off with that announcement, no games allowed, I don't want to do any games. It's their way of disarming you. It's their way of you making you relax your guard so you can't compete with the games that they're already going to play with you. Okay? It's pretty sad because it doesn't give the relationship an honest chance to start. All right? They're already anticipating you're going to play games and hurt them, or you're going to have a game that they're going to lose. So they want to win this game before you ever realize you're in a game. Okay, that's all it is to them. So what is this game? The relationship version of this game. The game player, typically they will mask their true feelings, okay, one way or the other, in an effort for you to reveal yours. They're not above using tears, granted, okay? I've seen some great game players use some tears that I thought were real. So once you do reveal your feelings, though, once you do reveal your true feelings, they can either reveal their feelings or continue to mask their own feelings, hide them, and make you keep revealing your feelings and then keep having to prove them again and again and again. Okay? It's like a form of manipulation. Okay? It's exactly that. It's a form of manipulation. Now, I find that it usually stems from a massive insecurity. The game player doesn't fully believe that someone can truly love them genuinely. So they settle for love through manipulation or control, but it's going to be on their own terms. It's going to be their way, not in any mutually beneficial way. It's all going to be their way. That way they can control the beginning, the middle, the end. They control everything. They can't be hurt. Okay? So they can get you to do and say most anything. They will get you to forget who you are and what you believe in. You find yourself bending over backwards, all right, to prove yourself, only to have to do it again the next day and the next day and the next, all right? It never ends. That's the game, proving yourself again and again and again and again. They'll ask you for your password to your email. They want to know what all your social media connections are. They want to answer your phone for you. Not and you know, usually we let them because we've got nothing to hide, but that's not the point for them. The point for them is they want to intercept your entire world. They want everyone to know that you have someone, that you have them, and they're going to get rid of all temptation. All right. So there's no way you can ever cheat on them. And in a twisted kind of way, okay, I kind of understand, but what they're actually saying is that I'm going to take away your freedom to cheat on me. That way you can't. It's like God taking the tree of good and evil, the tree of life, out of the Garden of Eden. God takes the tree out because he doesn't even want you to be tempted to eat of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. He doesn't even want you to be tempted. So without any temptation, you can't do anything wrong. Only problem is that you can't truly know whether someone loves you or not unless they're ever tempted to not love you, unless there aren't any options anywhere. So you're all that's left. How does that work? Easy. The self-esteem of the person who likes to play games, their self-esteem is irrelevant. It's all about winning the game. Okay? So if they can cut you off from all your freedoms, they win. They win because they have you. You have no place to go but them. Yeah, that's pretty difficult. That's pretty difficult to swallow, but that's what game players typically do. That's who they are. Now, when you start figuring this out, you start figuring out that the little questions they ask, like, who was there at work with you? Or why is your car seat warm? You know, the little things like that. You start figuring out this is a game, that this is about manipulation. You may still want to be involved in that person. You may still see some redeeming qualities in that person. So you decide, I want to preserve this relationship. I want to, but no more games. None. I don't want any games. Just straight up honesty. And sometimes they'll shake their head. Okay, but they're still in game mode. They're still in game mode. But a lot of them, they'll reject that outright. They'll reject it because they can't hear that. If you stop playing games, that's going to take away their control, their power over you. Now they have to just simply trust you. And they don't. Game players don't trust. They have a hard time trusting people. So their control over you means they don't have to trust you. They have control. No, they don't want to hear about a relationship that doesn't have any games in it. All right. So to get you back to playing the games, that's when the guilt trip begins. The guilt trip, like, let me think, you never cared about me anyway. Or if you loved me, you would do this. Or if you loved me, you would do that. And they keep that guilt trip going until you're back in the game. Folks, it's amazing to me how little they think of themselves when it comes to relationships. They can't conceive of someone loving them for them. Everything has to be a game that they make the rules for, and thus will always win. So here's a good little story for you. This girl I was seeing once, she's at my apartment. We're just hanging out, and my phone rings. I don't know who it is. I haven't gotten up to check who's calling me yet. But that was all my girlfriend at the time needed. Your phone rang. Who is she? I don't know who it is. It could be a guy, girl. I don't know. I'll find out. And no, wasn't good enough. Never was not good enough. We were having a great day. But that one phone call took her from 0 to 100. And she got so mad, she left my house, slammed the door. Now, back at that time, I was playing the game. So I would run after her in tears. I'd be on bended knee and do my best boys to men, baby, please come back. And it would play this way again and again and again. Till finally I started realizing, you know something, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be scared every time my phone rings, wondering who it is or who my girlfriend will think it's going to be. Yeah, I started getting, I when we would be at my house, I didn't want my phone. I'd unplug it. And then why are you unplugging your phone? Who's going to call? It's like, oh man, okay, fine. But it got old. It got old really, really fast. And then I made a decision. I had to make a decision that if she thought so little of me and our relationship, to simply walk out when the phone rings, slam the door, walk out, then this is not quite the girl that I want. This is not the woman that I want to marry. This is not the woman that I think will stick with me through the good and the bad, ups and downs, if she can leave that easily and that quick. I can understand it had I cheated on her in the past. Not me. That's not what I do. It happened to her in her past. Her boyfriend cheated on her. Not here. Not here. So I was innocent, but in her eyes, I was guilty. I was guilty. So I had to make that decision and say, you know something, if this happens again, I'm going to let her go. I'm going to let her go. This is not a game. I had to be ready to lose her. Sure enough, it happened again. She's at my house. We're hanging out. Everything's great. We're watching TV. My phone rings and she plays the same story. Who is she? And 0 to 100, slams my door, leaves. I got up. I decided to lock the door, not because I didn't want her to come back in, but because I don't, whether I'm home or not, my door is always locked, period. I'd never have my door just open. So locked the door, sat back down, finished watching TV. Okay, that's it. About 20 minutes later, she gave me a call and I picked the phone up and she asked me, why didn't I come get her? That's when I told her, I said, I'm not going to do this with you anymore. If you feel so little for me that you can just walk out every time this happens, I can't stop you. I can't stop you. You can keep walking as far as you want to walk. That's fine. And then she, well, you've got these girls calling the house. I said, I don't know who it was. And you don't know who it was either. Neither one of us know who it is. You keep assuming, but not really the point, is it? This was the game. The game was to keep me under control and to stop me from cheating, period. You can't do that. You cannot stop someone from cheating on you. You can't stop anyone from doing wrong. You can't stop anyone. No one can stop you from cheating on someone either. It's just God doesn't even take away that freedom from anyone. God gives us the freedom to sin. How are you, or who do you think you are, to try to take someone's sin away from them, or try to take away their option to sin away from them? God doesn't, he's not even that controlling with our free will. So bottom line, the girl, she came back and we talked, but that was really about towards the end of the relationship. It didn't last much longer than that anyway, but I was okay. I was ready to lose this girl because I was done with the games. I didn't want those. That's not what I want in my relationships for my future. Okay. But I had to believe, I had to know what I wanted. I had to know what I wanted and stand firm on what I want, not let someone take away what I want or make me forget about what I really want. So this relationship that I had, not quite sure what it was, but it wasn't love. It wasn't the love that I was looking for. And here are the scriptures that kind of helped me figure some things out, okay, as far as what love I was actually looking for. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 6. Most of us, we know what this verse is all about, okay? But this is God. God created love. God has perfected love. So he's explaining to us in 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 6, what love is supposed to be, okay? From his mind, what this love was intended to be. It reads, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. And you remember that time when you did this? Oh, well, you remember this time when all that goes back and forth? That doesn't happen in this definition of love. You're not going to keep those records of right and wrong, because all you do with those records is you hold them over the head of, and you hurt the person you're supposed to love. You hurt the person who's supposed to love you. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. You want to know how beautiful this is? My wife, she and I, we've been married since 2007. So about 13, 14 years now. And she has yet to ask me for any of my passwords to anything. And it's not because I've got a few social media, I got YouTube or Facebook or whatever, but it's because we have this trust, but it's a trust that we built over time. Okay. Trust won't come overnight, but many of the game players, they want the trust immediately. Give it time to build. Give it time. Whoever it is, they will show you whether they're trustworthy or not, given time, without you having to commandeer their whole life to ensure that they don't hurt you. You can't do that. There is no 100% foolproof way of not being hurt when you're in a relationship. Being in a relationship means you're vulnerable. You are vulnerable to be hurt. You have to accept that when you come into a relationship. If you're not ready to be open, if you're not going to trust someone, okay, if you're not vulnerable to be hurt, then you're not ready to be in a relationship. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Let me ask you something. How much did God love us? He loved us enough to give his one and only Son, his only begotten Son. That one and only Son is God's best. That is God's best. This is what love looks like. When you love someone, you want to give them your best. Your best. All right? Whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. You need to understand something. When God gave his Son, he gave his Son to die for everybody, but there's a caveat. You have to believe in him. You have to believe in him to receive the eternal life, the blessing that comes with loving God. Okay? That's how you receive eternal life in heaven. If you spit at the love that God has demonstrated, you will not receive the eternal life. That decision is completely left up to us. It's completely up to us. Likewise, when you give your heart to someone in a relationship, when you give your heart to someone, they have a choice to respond in kind. They've got a choice. If they can't give you their heart, if they don't know how to give you their heart, give them their freedom. Give them their freedom. It's okay. It's okay if it's not a good match. Maybe they'll be a good match for someone else, or maybe they need time. They need time to learn to stop playing games. They need time to figure some things out on their own before they can ever be ready for an actual relationship. Thank you for joining me today on today's Divortorium. Stay tuned for part 3 of my series on relationships, errors in relationships.